Hello and welcome to Sheffield Live. You are watching African Voices with me, Baillor Jalloh, and my co-host joining us from home, Enoch Karimba. Hi, Enoch.
Hello, Joe. Hello, Baillor. You okay?
Not bad. Yourself?
I'm good, thank you.
Today we are discussing the COVID-19, the BAMER COVID-19 response team, and we've got our guest today, who is Olivier Tsemo, who is the CEO for Sadaka Limited and also the co-chair for the BAMER COVID-19 response team. Hi, Olivier. Can you introduce yourself more?
Thank you, Baillor, and thank you, Enoch, for welcoming me to your program. Yes, my name is Olivier Tsemo, and I'm the CEO of Sadaka, the Sheffield and District African and Caribbean Community Association. And I'm also the co-chair of the BAMER COVID-19 group. It is a group that was recently formed in Sheffield to provide our community with some immediate response to COVID-19.
Thank you very much for that, Olivier. So let's get on board straight away. So in terms of what you guys have been doing, talk us through what you've been doing and how the group was created.
Thank you. Yeah, 3 months ago, I was approached by the people who originally set the group due to the pandemic, because it was a major crisis in our community. That means the BAMER community. And I've seen what was happening. That means providing food, providing food parcel to many people in our community, and also providing, signposting people to the direct service. I was very, very touched by what was happening on the ground. And that's how Sadaka became part of, this group of organization that originally said. We are now constituted, and we are pretty much up to 19 organizations delivering food, parcel, mask for our communities.
All right. Speaking of delivering parcels and other food items to the community, and you also mentioned there are 19 organizations that are involved. How have you found collaborating with those 19 organizations?
Yeah, at the beginning, it wasn't something easy, but what we have done, again, is leadership. It's about showing people the interest of, it's about showing people the interest of coming together as a group of BAMER organizations so that we can actually impact our community. Because for far too long, we have always been scattered across the region of Sheffield and not collaborating. But with this new approach, I can see that there is many groups are galvanized to the idea that we all coming together, share our expertise, share our own objective to impact the community. Then collaboration so far is going extremely well, and many more organizations are joining to the group.
Enoch, I understand you will want to come in.
Yeah, thank you for that, Olivier. And, it sounds a very interesting group that was set up. But what's the main purpose, given that there's many small BAMER groups under one umbrella, that has come and formed up that response team? What is its main purpose? I mean, we know the BAMER communities have been, adversely affected by this COVID-19 pandemic. But in forming this response team, what's its main purpose in regards to, fighting or raising awareness to COVID-19 to the BAMER community?
Yeah, I will give my answer in 3 stages. The first one is, first of all, an immediate response. Because as we rightly mentioned, our community is devastated by the consequences of COVID-19. Then it was an emergency for us. It was an urgency for us to come together, firstly, and to, actually write down what we need to do immediately. And for this reason, that means we approach Sheffield City Council and all stakeholders here in Sheffield, so that we can analyze and deliver for the community. This is what I would call an immediate response. In a medium term now, it's all about a minority community not working on their own. We want all minority community to come together so that we can actually be a force if you look clearly, this is what other communities are doing. If you look at the white community, they're all working as a hub, and this has been lacking for the BAME community. But for the first time now in the city, we got as well a hub that will actually take all our BAMER organization, and together we can actually impact our community. It's all about impacting community. This is our main purpose, because so far we are scattered and we got little impact.
Okay. Also, looking at what you're aiming to achieve, as a team of, various BAMER groups, could this be long term? What are the long term objectives for this, of this team?
That's correct. The idea is a long-term one. It's not only to respond to COVID-19. COVID-19 is the emergency. It's the urgency that we got right now. But in the long term, it's about working as a group. Unity is our strength moving forward. We want Sheffield to be seen. We want the BAME community in Sheffield to be seen as one. That means sharing exactly, because we know what happened in our community. That means working as one for us is the way forward. And why is the way forward? It's because we lacking a lot of resources in our community. And more often, when resources come into the city, we got only very tiny community of, only very little representative of BAME community accessing those resources at minimal level. But what we want now is to organize, structure ourselves so that when there is any resources coming into the city that's directed to BAME community, all this come into the hub, and the hub then can share it among communities.
Speaking of organization there, in terms of what you've been doing, how have you been kind of allocating the food support that you are providing? How have you been deciding who needs what?
That's correct. And what we have done, because the BMAER COVID represents all the communities, and you know that food, when it comes to our community, food is cultural. Then we've been delivering a lot of culturally appropriate food. That means, a section of the BMAER COVID group are Asian, and this Asian organization will target their community and deliver appropriate food to their community. Sadaka represents the African and the Caribbean, and we have pretty much done the same thing. That means we have provided food parcel also to our community. Then knowing the exact need of the community and acting on, that's been the key for us.
As Enoch mentioned earlier, we know that COVID-19 has been affecting the BAME community disproportionately, especially the Black and African Caribbean community, looking at it in terms of percentage. So you as a group or as an organization, what are you doing to sensitize the community, to raise more awareness in the community about COVID-19?
That's correct. And this is the reason why we're working closely with Sheffield City Council and also the Public Health England. I mean, there is a lot happening right now. We have identified some of these organizations that will become very soon a contact and tracing center. And also we're working directly with Public Health England to also see how we can develop communication strategy to impact the community and inform them. Your question is very, very important. It's taking the communication from the top to the level of our community. And this is very important. And that's why I'm urging community leaders to come on board so that we can actually see how we will take that communication into the community.
Okay, that's a very good explanation on that one, Olivier. You just mentioned, of the top-down approach, when it comes to communication. Is there the reverse of that, some sort of like a bottom-up approach? There might be some BAMER communities or people within those communities that are not known, or they're basically invisible. How are those people going to be reached out? I mean, what sort of communication strategies do you have in place? Especially that, if you look at the BAMER communities, as you mentioned earlier on when we began this program, they were fragmented, they were everywhere. So you've come up with this umbrella group of COVID-19 response team. But is it really, bringing people together, as you mentioned, of the objective being to unify everyone? But in there any other people that might feel left out in this response team?
Yeah, it is something for us to analyze, but what I'm saying is we got 5 key hubs in the city of Sheffield. You got Sadaka, 5 key organizations that I will call a hub. Sadaka represents the African and the Caribbean. That means and Africa is a very large continent with nearly 54 different countries. Then many of these subgroups can always come to Sadaka directly. In the Caribbean, it's pretty much the same. That means they come under the umbrella of Sadaka. It's the same for people who are Asian, who will go into the PMC, the Pakistanis Muslim Center, or also to the Yemeni Center to act, and also ISRA, the Somali Center. We take all these organizations into our umbrella, into the BAMER Sheffield COVID-19. And then from there, we act to actually, as you say, expand the communication within any single community. Of course, it will be difficult, but my plea to many small organizations, what I will call small organizations within countries, is to look up for the umbrella organization and take the information from there, because it will be very difficult for us to go and reach any single tiny organization. We are a hub. That means Sadaka is a house to all the African organizations.
Olivier, sorry there to come back there, Enoch. As you've mentioned, Africa is a large continent with 54 nations. I'm just wondering, where does Somalia belong? Because you mentioned Israel from the Somali community being part of that umbrella organization. So I'm just wondering, where does Somalia belongs?
You're completely right. Of course, Somalia is part of Africa. It's part of Africa, but the beauty of having Israel is that it's an organization that has been one of the first, you see, community center to be set in Sheffield. They've been in the business for nearly 40 years. Then, in that sense, they're a bit different from newly created organization in the city.
So you're kind of like looking for their expertise to make sure things run smoothly.
That's correct.
That's totally understood there. So in terms of collaboration, because you also mentioned earlier with VAS, which the Voluntary Action Sheffield, which, as you mentioned, like the white community, if I'm allowed to say so. How's that collaboration going right now to make sure the awareness is out there to the Black community, to the Asian community, and the white community?
Yeah, as I say in my introduction, we are working collaboratively and reflectively with all organizations. That means we are not, the BMAER COVID-19 is not a closed club, no. We are open, but at the same time, our priority is to look at the interest of minority community in the city. And for that reason, we first of all need to structure ourselves. We structure ourselves and we want to impact, first of all, our community. But we also go out there and look for expertise, and BAS is one of them. That means we will take the expertise from BAS. We will also take the expertise from the Sheffield City Council and Public Health England. But at the same time, our priority, it is minority organization on the ground. We want to impact our own people. This is our interest. And for that reason, we need to be structured. We need to look in ourselves, put structure in place, and see how we can direct the funding that come in the city for minority organizations directly to impact our community.
We know that this is an organization that's just been recently set up as a response to what has happened, which even though that is something newly that was set up, but as you mentioned, the main aim is in order to have an impact in the community. So having said that, we know that you're working with VAS in order to get their expertise and also the council, but how are you also making sure, as long as you are trying to work along with them to get their expertise, but also represent the views and needs of the community? When I say the community, I mean like the Black community, the Asian community, knowing that we are the most people that are kind of being affected in with COVID-19, especially looking at it, we are the more people that are likely to be working in very disadvantaged areas. When I say disadvantaged area, in jobs that are very risky to COVID-19, living in overcrowded places or houses, you know, having poor balanced diet or health. So how are you making sure that you are representing the needs of our people?
Thank you. That's a very, very good question. We are a hub. That means the BAMER COVID-19 group is a hub. Within that hub, you got so many umbrella organizations like Sadaka, the PMC, ISRAC, ACT, and so on. These organizations individually continue the objective on the ground. They continue. The reason of creating a hub is at a strategy level, is to be able to have a seat where decisions are made so that we know exactly, because all this is to do with the finance. Without the financial impact, without the finance, we cannot impact our community. Then we need to be able to have a seat on each of these tables where decisions are made, where financial decisions are made, so that we know exactly the money that's coming into the city. And then we can direct that money to local organizations to impact the community. This is the reason why we're working closely with VAS, Public Health England, and Sheffield City Council. It's because we want to have a seat on those tables where decisions are made. Each organization continue on the ground to deliver on their own objective. This is what is important. That means since COVID-19, Sadaka or ISRA or ACT hasn't stopped to deliver on the core objective. But at the same time, we need to work at a strategic level to know exactly what is happening at the top so that we can filter all this on the ground. That is the reason why BAMER COVID-19, Sheffield BAMER COVID-19 was created, to bring all these core organizations together, and then we can try and see if we can get the information directly and know where the information will go and be able to spread the information.
Enoch?
Hello. Yeah, sorry, I was just gonna come in when you spoke about the role of us. I just wanted to know, do you think, this has been a long time coming? Because just, setting up an umbrella group of BAMER communities just because of this COVID-19, do you think VAS, would have played a huge role even before this pandemic, do you reckon the BAMER communities within the whole of Sheffield would have had a huge role to play within or amongst themselves even before this COVID-19? Because it looks as though they've only been creating this umbrella for the purpose of the pandemic. But is this gonna take a different turn when this pandemic is over? Or is it sort of like a temporary measure to bring together these BAMER communities?
Yeah, I won't say that it's due to, of course, COVID-19 has been, the reason why the BAMER group has been, was created. But we need to go back and then realize that Voluntary Action Sheffield hasn't represented the BAMER community for a long time here in Sheffield. Nobody wants us to unite. That means it is not the job of us to ask BAMER community to unite. We need to look at ourselves and realize that what are the strategies for us to actually impact our community in an effective way. These are the reasons why we can only unify, work together, and also closely with VAS and Sheffield City Council. I'm not saying that we should not work with VAS. No, we're gonna work with VAS, but our working relationship with VAS is in the interest of our community. Anything that we're doing is to impact our community. That's the key. I mean, we do not want any relationship whereby our community are not the beneficiary. No, we want money back into our community so that we can minimize everything that's currently happening.
Yourself and Zahira Aishad, forgive me if I've pronounced her name wrongly, we are kind of took over the helm of being the co-chairs of the BAMER COVID-19 response team just last week. How will you describe the relationship?
It's a perfect one. She's an outstanding leader. And I'm sure that together we will impact the community. Again, our role is to unify the community. That means our community hasn't been unified for quite some time now. Not just the Black or the African community or the Asian on their own, no. We're talking here about the African, the Caribbean, the Asian, the Chinese. That means all the non-white community. That's why we call it the Black community, all the non-white. Then that's the overall aim, is to see all this community united. And if we're united now, we look at what we can do for the community by not being scattered anymore like we have been in Sheffield for some time. She's a great leader, that's what I can say. And for me, I like working with her and also with the group, because we do form a team, we do have a team of committee, of true professionals. And these people are, the only aim is to impact the community.
Okay, thank you for that, Olivier. In terms of lessons, what do you see this COVID-19 response team learning from this collaboration?
Like any single group, there are issues. But what I've taken here from the group, because I've been part of the group for the past 2 months, is that anything that we do it because, you see, we want the result to be felt in our community. Then this is a group of people who truly want, because remember, we are all volunteers. And if people are given a lot of their time to come and do this work, it's because they really want to see a change into the community. And that's the beauty of it. And it is again a plea out there. Any BAME organization here in Sheffield needs to come on board with us so that we can unite and then actually impact our community.
So how can people get involved?
We do have a Facebook page, the Sheffield BAMER COVID-19 group. People can call me directly. They know Sadaka. People can go to ACT, to ISRAC, to Mom United. We are well known. I think if people just Google the Sheffield BAMER COVID-19 group, then they can join our Facebook page and then see the great work that we're doing on the ground.
Yeah, thank you for that again, Olivier. I think for me, what I'm seeing in this COVID-19 response team is a positive, activity going forward, and especially for the BAMER communities in and around Sheffield. But my main issue, or if I could call it an issue, do you think this could be a foundation born of all these groups staying together, not disintegrating as it's happened in the past? Because there has been some situations in the past where these small BAMER communities, everyone is grouping themselves according to, their originality, where they come from, or nationality, or this and that. Do you think this might be a positive force to be reckoned with? Even when this pandemic is over, do you think by unifying together for this pandemic cause, after this pandemic is gone, do you think these groups will stay unified? I wish they could stay unified as, as one huge BAMER umbrella group. So I'm just wanting to know, where do you see this unification going? Is it going to be stronger? Is it going to be, something that works together, different from the past? We've had stories in the past.
Yeah, and that's a great question again, but it all depends on the leadership. That means my vision is I want strong leadership. Without us coming together, we're going absolutely nowhere, because we know exactly what the past 20, 30 years have shown in Sheffield. Everybody can look back into the history of BAMER organization in the city and see exactly what is the urgency right now. That means, and I do know, and you're completely right to say, we got to look beyond COVID-19, and that's what we're doing now. That means we're putting in place strategy to look past COVID-19. But you will agree with me that COVID-19 will be here for the next I would say probably 24 months, we will always be talking next year and the year after about COVID-19, because the impact it will be still be there in our community. Then for now, it's the priority for us. It's making sure that our community benefit from all the resources that the central government is putting forward. That those resources don't just go into a, targeted side of the community. It has to come into all community. All communities matters. That's our urgent fight right now, is to make sure that all BAME community feel the positive, feel the financial impact that the government is actually putting into communities. I agree with you that working forward, when I look at the future, this will depend on all leaders in any single BAME community sharing that vision of let's stick together, and we will be a force to reckon with in Sheffield. And this will also set a clear example in all other cities. That means I want Sheffield to take that lead. It's extremely important that we are a success, so that other cities can look at Sheffield lead and constitute as well, because unity is clearly the way forward. If we not unite, we are not going to deliver for our community. Then my plea and what I need to do is to fight for that unity.
Olivier, thank you for that. We've got less than 5 minutes to go. Speaking of what you've just said, what has been the challenges you've been facing since you created this organization, looking at the way forward, so that the mistakes that happen at the beginning will not happen in the middle or at the end? If you can just summarize that quickly.
Of course, you always, as Enoch said, you will always have some community leader who will come forward and say that they don't share the idea. But those who have mentioned it have now joined the group. That's only because we have explained the vision. Then it's all about having a shared vision. You see, taking them into the journey of what happened in the past for them to actually see what needs to happen so that the community can benefit more. Then so far, the response is great. More people are joining the group because we truly, and I want your organization, that means I want Sheffield Voice to be part of it, and also to work clearly. We need people to bring any single strategy that will actually make the group more cohesive and impact the community. The key here is people on the ground. The key is not you, it's not me. The key is people on the ground. How effective are we contributing into maximizing, the life?
So right now, what do you lack? What kind of expertise do you lack that you think other BAME communities or other BAME volunteers can come in and bring into the organization?
I won't say that. No. We are a group of so many expertise, but having more expertise is always what you seek in an organization. That means we're out there trying to recruit more. That's why for me, we got an open door policy. We want more people to join with different ideas so that we can all take these ideas and actually model a path of success for the BAME community.
A final word from you, Enoch, quick one.
I'm just glad that, this response team has been set up, but it's also been set up to highlight what I would call the government statistics. Had there not been these statistics, of saying that the BAMER community are the most prevalent people to die of this pandemic, hence, the inception of this group, I think going forward, I can see some positivities out there, and I'm only hoping that in future it stays as it is and grows more bigger than what it is now.
Yourself, Olivier, a final message from you to the public or to the BAMER community?
Yeah, thank you, Enoch. Thank you, Baillor. I think it was a great exchange. The final word for me is, any great organization is always built on people's resilience and people who got a shared vision. Having a shared vision of success is very, very important. We will succeed, and we will impact our community. But to do so, we want people to have that vision, the vision of unity, because it's unity that's clearly needed. Unity is synonym of leadership for our community. If we can come together, we will make a success for our people. That's my message.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. It was a pleasure having both of you, and to our viewers, thank you very much. That was African Voices. Until next week, as the two gentlemen said, we hope and pray that this idea will flourish, and we hope and pray that it will become an organization that will have an impact to the entire community. Until next week, that was African Voices. Thank you for watching, and have a good night.